Riddance of Sexual Misconduct. Lewd, sexual misconduct, fornication, or adultery. The third commandment of the 5 basic commandments for lay people, and the third precept of the 10 major precepts for monks and nuns in the Brahma Net Sutra. Monks or nuns who commit this offense will be expelled from the order forever. 4 conditions that are necessary to complete the evil of sexual misconduct: the thought to enjoy, consequent effort, means to gratify, and gratification. According to the Buddha and his teachings, written by Most Venerable Narada, these are the inevitable consequences of kamisamikakara: having many enemies, having an undesirable wives and husbands, spouses, and birth as a woman or as a eunuch. In the Dharmapada Sutra, the Buddhas taught, for misfortunes occur to a careless man who commits adultery, acquisition of demerit, restlessness, moral blame, and downward path. There is acquisition of demerit, as well as evil destiny. No joy of the frightened man. The king imposes a heavy punishment. Therefore, man should never commit adultery. Lust grows into a habit because of sexual intercourse, in which 2 people caress each other, thereby producing heat. That in turn stimulates desire. This is like the heat caused by rubbing the hands together. Adultery results in the iron bed, the copper pillar, and the 8 hot hells. The bed stands for sexual desire, and the pillar for the partner, on whom the sinner depends to stimulate his sexual appetite. The Buddha taught habits of lust and reciprocal interactions, which give rise to mutual rubbing. When this rubbing continues without cease, it produces a tremendous raging fire within, which movement occurs just as warmth arises between a person's hands when he rubs them together. Because these 2 habits set each other ablaze, there come into being the iron bed, the copper pillar, and other such experiences. Therefore, thus come ones of the 10 directions. Look upon the practice of lust, and name it the fire of desire. Bodhisattvas avoid desire, as they would a fiery pit. At the time of the Buddha, there was a man who had the habit of committing adultery, even though he had been arrested a number of times for his misconduct. He did not change his ways. In desperation, his father brought him to the Buddha for advice. The Buddha pointed out that a person who indulges in sexual misconduct creates problems and suffering for himself as well as others. He not only squanders his money and loses his reputation, but also creates enemies for himself. These are serious consequences, often result from sexual misconduct, but they are usually overlooked at the time when it is being committed. Not to engage in improper sexual conduct, against lust, not to commit adultery, to abstain from all sexual excess, or refraining from sexual misconduct. This includes not having sexual intercourse with another's husband or wife, or being irresponsible in sexual relationship. Adultery is wrong. Lay people should be responsible in sexual matters. If we do not have the great opportunity to renounce the world, to become monks and nuns, to cultivate obtain liberation, we should keep a good relationship between husband and wife. We should be considerate, loving and faithful to each other. Then our family will be happy, and our society will be better. One who commits it does not command respect, nor does one inspire confidence. Sexual misconduct involving person with whom conjugal relations should be avoided to custom, or those who are prohibited by law or by the Dharma, is also wrong. So is coercing by physical or even financial means a married or even unmarried person into consenting to such conduct. The purpose of this third sila is to preserve the respectability of the family, of each person concerned, and to safeguard its sanctity and inviolability. According to the path of purification, bad ways is a term for doing what ought not to be done, and not doing what ought to be done, out of desire, hate, delusion, and fear. They are called bad ways, because they are ways not to be traveled by noble ones. Adultery is mentioned in Buddhist texts as one of a number of forms of similar sexual misconduct. For monks or nuns who only think about or wish to commit sexual intercourse with any people, not wait until physically committing sexual intercourse, are guilty and violate the Vinaya commandments and must be excommunicated from the order. For lay people, thinking or wishing to make love, or physically making love with those who are not their husband or wife is forbidden. Avoiding the misuse of sex is respect for people and personal relationships. Much unhappiness arises from the misuse of sex and from living in irresponsible ways. Many families have been broken as a result, and many children have been victims of sexual abuse. For all lay Buddhists, the happiness of others is also the happiness of ourselves. So sex should be used in a caring and loving manner, not in a craving of worldly flesh. When observing this precept, sexual desire should be controlled, and husbands and wives should be faithful towards each other. This will help to create peace in the family. In a happy family, the husband and wife respect, trust, and love each other. With happy families, the world would be a better place for us to live in. Young Buddhists should keep their minds and bodies pure to develop their goodness. Devout Buddhists should not commit sexual misconduct to have unchaste because first, we don't want to be a bad person in the society. Second, not to have unchaste will help us become pure and good. Not to commit sexual misconduct is the third commandment of the 5 basic commandments for lay people, and the third precept of the 10 major precepts for monks and nuns in the Brahma Net Sutra. Monks or nuns who commit this offense will be expelled from the order forever. This is one of the first 8 of the 10 commandments, which the Buddha set forth for lay Buddhists to observe 24 hours every fortnight. There are 4 conditions that are necessary to complete the evil of sexual misconduct: the thought to enjoy, consequent effort, means to gratify, gratification, or the act of sexual misconduct. For monks and nuns, a bhiksu who, when motivated by sexual desire, tells a woman or a man that it would be a good thing for her or him to have sexual relations with him, commits a Sangha restoration offense. A bhikshuni who is intent upon having sexual relations with someone, whether male or female, breaks one of the 8 degradation offenses. She is no longer worthy to remain a bhikshuni and cannot participate in the activities of the order of bhikshunis. Through word or gesture arouses sexual desire in that person, breaks the 7th of the 8 degradation offenses, says to that person that she is willing to offer him or her sexual relations, breaks the 8th of the 8 degradation offenses. According to the Buddha and his teachings, written by Most Venerable Narada, these are the inevitable consequences of kamisamikakara: having many enemies, union with undesirable wives and husbands, spouses, and birth as a woman or as a eunuch. If living beings in the 6 paths of any mundane world had no thoughts of lust, they would not have to follow a continual succession of births and deaths. According to the Surangama Sutra, the Buddha reminded Ananda about cutting off lust, one of the 4 important precepts for monks and nuns in Buddhism. Ananda, your basic purpose in cultivating is to transcend the wearisome defilements. But if you don't renounce your lustful thoughts, you will not be able to get out of the dust. Even though one may have some wisdom and the manifestation of Zen Samadhi, one is certain to enter demonic paths if one does not cut off lust. At best, one will be a demon king. On the average, one will be in the retinue of demons. At the lowest level, one will be a female demon. These demons have their groups of disciples. Each says of himself, "He has accomplished the unsurpassed way." After my extinction, in the Dharma-ending age, these hordes of demons will abound, spreading like wildfire, as they openly practice greed and lust. Coming to be good knowing advisors, they will cause living beings to fall into the pit of love and views and lose the way to Bodhi Ananda. When you teach people in the world to cultivate samadhi, they must first of all sever the mind of lust. This is the first clear and unalterable instruction on purity, given by the thus come ones and the Buddhas of the past, world-honored ones. Therefore, Ananda, if cultivators of Zen Samadhi do not cut off lust, they will be like someone who cooks sand in the hope of getting rice. After hundreds of thousands of eons, it will still be just hot sand. Why? It wasn't rice to begin with. It was only sand. Ananda, if you seek the Buddha's wonderful fruition and still have physical lust, then even if you attain a wonderful awakening, it will be based in lust. With lust at the source, you will revolve in the three paths and not be able to get out. Which road will you take to cultivate and be certified to the thus come one's nirvana? You must cut off the lust, which is intrinsic in both body and mind, then get rid of even the aspect of cutting it off. At that point you have some hope of attaining the Buddha's Bodhi. What I have said here is the Buddha's teaching. Any explanation counter to it is the teaching of Papian. According to the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught, "Monk, I know not of any other single form by which a man's heart is attracted, as it is by that of a woman. Monks, a woman's form fills a man's mind. Monks, I know not of any other single sound by which a man's heart is attracted, as it is by that of a woman. Monks, a woman's sound fills a man's mind. The same thing happens with smell, flavor, touch. Sex is described by the Buddha as the strongest impulse in man. If one becomes a slave to this impulse, even the most powerful man turn into a weakling. Even the sage may fall from the higher to a lower level." In the Dharmapada Sutra, the Buddha taught, "For misfortunes occur to a careless man who commits adultery, acquisition of demerit, restlessness, moral blame and downward path. There is acquisition of demerit, as well as evil destiny. No joy of the frightened man. The king imposes a heavy punishment. Therefore, man should never commit adultery." In the 42-section sutra, the Buddha said, "There was once someone who, plagued by ceaseless sexual desire, wished to castrate himself. To cut off your sexual organs would not be as good as to cut off your mind. Your mind is like a supervisor. If the supervisor stops, his employees will also quit. If the deviant mind is not stopped, what good does it do to cut off the organs?" The Kasyapa Buddha taught, "Desire is born from your will. Your will is born from thought. When both aspects of the mind are still, there is neither form nor activity." We, Buddhist practitioners, should listen to the Buddha's teaching to get rid of sexual misconducts. For once we are able to get rid of sexual misconducts, also means that we have already pushed away great obstacles on our own path of cultivation.